Now today we're looking at a Toyota oil filter. Now if you're not familiar with these videos, ultimately we're just opening up the filter, laying the parts out on the bench, talking about the different components, what they do, and even compare them to other filters that we've opened up in the past. So before we begin, we will be giving away a filter for free. If you want to enter the contest, just leave a clean, innocuous comment in the comment box below. And after a week we'll pick a winner and we'll send one out right to you. Now before we open the filter, just a couple things to take note. Number one, they do seal the bottom of the oil filter, which is a nice touch. No debris, contaminants can enter the filter. It's also made by Denso. Now this is a Japanese manufacturer, and that's pretty typical. Most oil filters out there, they're made by just a handful of companies. Even the Champion, for example, that we opened last week, this is made by Federal Mogul, which is a very, I think something like $6 billion company that just does automotive powertrains and parts and things like that. So this is pretty typical. And of course Denso, if you're familiar with Denso, they make very good parts. And this is made in Thailand, which is interesting. This is the first filter I've come across that's made in Thailand. Typically they're made in the US. STP is Korea, KNN is Mexico. So that's sort of interesting to note. The one comparison I can make also to the Nissan filter, let me grab that right now, is that Nissan includes a washer for the drain plug. This is the only filter I've come across that they include a washer for the drain plug. That's just a really nice touch that would be nice if more filter manufacturers did that. Now regarding how long the filter lasts for, the best thing you could do is check the owner's manual. Now if you don't have one, typically you can download them right off Toyota's website. I did some research regarding which vehicles this filter is made for, and it seems like if you're running conventional motor oil, this is good up to 5,000 miles or 6 months. If you're running synthetic, then 10,000 miles and 1 year. So conventional motor oil, 6 months, 5,000 miles. Synthetic, 1 year, 10,000 miles. So it really all depends on the type of oil that you're running. So let's go ahead, open it up, and see what we have. Now right off the bat we can see just how beautiful this filter is made. The really interesting thing is look at the end caps. There are no end caps on this filter. What I mean by end caps, typically when you open up a filter, you have metal end caps holding the media, the filter itself, in place. 99% that we've opened, or 95% or so, they use metal end caps. So Wix XP, AmSoil, Royal Purple, K&N, so on and so forth, Mobile One, these are all metal end cap filters. Fram ExtraGuard is the interesting one in the sense they use these cardboard end caps. Same with Subaru. But in this filter, there are no end caps. They use a resin to hold everything in place. And it's just very, very nicely made. As you can see, it's incredibly strong. There's no flex here whatsoever where the resin is. That is really, really clever. And it's just so beautifully made in terms of the spacing. Regarding the media itself, it's not synthetic. If this was a synthetic media, this could last 15,000 miles. Typically, that's what they'll go for. Some AmSoils can go up to 25,000 miles. This most likely is a blend of fiberglass, cellulose, polyester, and typically that's what you'll find. In the 5,000, if you run synthetic, you can get a little bit more mileage out of it. But just, that is a really, really clever way to build a filter. Regarding this guy here, move the cover here. Now once that piece of plastic is removed, we can see that the gasket is pre-lubed from the factory. That is a very nice feature. That's the first filter I've come across that the gasket is pre-lubed. What I mean by that is whenever you change your engine oil and filter and you install the new filter, you always put a dab of clean oil on the gasket. That prevents any leaks. Also, typically it will retain the gasket inside the housing here as opposed to the gasket getting stuck to the engine. So you always put a little bit of clean oil. In this case, it's pre-lubed from the factory. Really nice touch. On the flip side, this is your anti-drain back valve. Now what this valve does is it retains the oil inside the oil filter when you shut off the engine. Now you most likely will find either rubber or silicone regarding the material used for the anti-drain back valve. To me, this seems like silicone. And silicone has a wide range, a wide temperature range. I believe it's down to minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit and up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's another anti-drain back valve this is from Champion. That's silicone. And this is a rubber anti-drain back valve from Subaru. And you can just see it's a lot thinner, the material. It certainly doesn't weigh nearly as much. To me, I'm fairly certain this is a silicone anti-drain back valve. So that is a very nice feature. In this case, this typically runs for around $7 or $8. I think Amazon has it for $8. So kudos for Toyota for giving you that upgraded material. And then this last feature right here is the bypass spring. Now what this does, if for any reason, if this filter starts to clog up, the flow rate is starting to degrade, then this little guy will open up and unfiltered engine oil will circulate back into the engine. It's a safety device. Every filter we've ever opened has a bypass and an anti-drain back valve. It's just, they're typically just made differently. So for example, on the Champion filter here, as you can see, there's your bypass. And this guy, so we have a stamped piece of steel that holds everything in place, very compact inside the filter. The flip side is sometimes you'll find a coil spring. 3/4 of the time you'll find this stamped piece of steel. The coil spring, this came from Champion, Wix XP, K&N. I believe the higher end Fram, they also use a coil spring like this. A little bit more money to manufacture, but they both have the same purpose, just to keep all the parts really nicely compact inside the filter. So the last thing I'm going to do is open up the filter, take a measurement regarding the square inches of the surface area. So this gives you a pretty good idea on what you have here. But I have to say, this is, if I had a Toyota, I would certainly use this filter. This is a very, very nicely made filter. Now in this case, unfortunately, we're not going to do a measurement. Once I remove this center tube, which is really strong by the way, I love how they taper the end. Very, very strong center tube. But the resin, not only is it on top of the filter, but it also deeps in around 1/8 of an inch around the circumference of the filter. And same on both ends. And it's just holding the filter so well together that if I put too much pressure, I'm afraid it's going to start tearing up the media, and I don't want to give any false readings. The flip side is I could take 1/8 of an inch off here, another 1/8 off here, but then we're shaving off 1/4 of an inch in total, and I just don't want to do that. So in this case, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. You can see that the surface area is quite large, and this being made by Denso, I'm sure it does a perfectly good job in what it needs to do. If you're curious regarding the length, it's 3 1/8, and we have another looks like almost 2 3/4. So very, very nicely made filter. So I hope this gives you a pretty good idea what you can expect from this filter. If I'm leaving anything out, please leave a comment in the comments box below. I tend to read all comments and questions and respond to them if I can. So if I'm leaving anything out that I can add, I certainly will. You know, sometimes I get questions, can you do a flow rate? I don't have that kind of machinery here. But that being said, every manufacturer goes by an ISO standard. And I'll include that link in the description box below. And with this standard, this is how they come up with the efficiency ratings and micron ratings and all that other good stuff. So if you're really interested in that sort of thing, I'll include a link. And manufacturers spend millions of dollars to design these things and to make sure that they last and they do the job that they're supposed to do. This is a really nice filter. Again, if you do have a Toyota, leave a clean comment in the comment box below. We'll pick a winner, and we'll send one of these out to you. So, until next time, thank you for watching.